Hi, welcome, this is PieCrust, and this is my Gerudo Town build from Zelda. It is going to be a longer video, so feel free to grab a snack and get cozy, or leave it on as background sound. Enjoy! As always, I am also going to comment on the video, so you can know what the thought process was behind the creation. You will get to know a bit better what the ideas are, why I did it in a certain way, and also I'll keep you company during the whole video. I have already built the outside wall of Gerudo Town. This is the main wall, the wall that you can see around it, surrounding the entire town when you get to Gerudo Town. And then I went in with the little building elements. Those little, well, they're not huts, but living spaces, I would say, and shops, because Gerudo Town is really famous, I would say, for the market area that it has in the middle. So I would say it's one of those Eastern type of marketplace. It has a bit of like Arab and maybe Turkish influences, that's what I would say. It's really, really beautiful. It's a very, very wholesome build, and I love how well it all comes together when you look at the designs, the colors, the items, all the pillows and carpets and all the curtains. Just they're so beautiful in this town. I loved it so much. I really enjoyed building it. Here I'm adding those towers that you have on the sides. I'll have to move these onto the far sides, far two ends, because they are actually on the far two ends. And I have actually built this before, but unfortunately, oh, here's a little story about my first time I tried to build Gerudo Town. It was really fun and I was having such a blast. I didn't even noticed how time was flying by and I forgot to hit save. And you know what happens when you forget to hit save for about 3 hours and then you want to save? Well, something is about to go wrong, and my game was stuck for about an hour and it was trying to save for like an hour because I left it on. I was really hoping that if I leave it on for an hour, just maybe it will save, and then hooray, I don't have to redo like pretty much half of the build. But it wasn't like that. It actually just kept on saving forever, and I exited the game and then I said, oh, maybe it was just the saving screen. Maybe that was just stuck somehow, but actually it created a save file. It was me trying to be all very positive about it, but no, there was no save file. So unfortunately, I lost about 3 hours recording of the game. Of course, that would have been anyhow sped up, so it wouldn't have been that long. So it would have been about 1.5 hours, well, without any editing. Yeah, so I had to redo it, and also I couldn't really use the recording for it because the second time it is different and it is better, so it is what it is. But every cloud has its silver lining, and I actually learned so much out of this experience. Like, now you can see I have added the water conducts. The city has this natural water source, and that's what I was trying to build around it and inside it, looking at maps online and also some images that I took from the game. And also I went into the game and I looked around. If you have watched my other video where I have created the Hyrule Castle, well, I have been in the game for, I don't even know, since it was released. I got the game when it was released. It was actually a present. I think it was for my birthday, so it was a super wholesome gift. And I'm still stuck in that world. I have never finished the game because I don't want to finish the game because it's so beautiful that I feel just this sadness if I finish the game. Do you have any games that you feel like that about? Let me know in the comment section because I am curious what games make you feel like that, if there are any. But yeah, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is one of the games that I don't want to finish because I know you probably can still walk around and do all the side quests, but at the same time, I just like how it's frozen in time. Now about the build, I have added the staircase in the middle. This is the one that you can see from the entrance, and you'll see that I'll be moving around just a bit to the left, to the right, to the right, to the left, everything, because I feel like it's not perfect, and as you can see, it still needs a lot of work because everything is, well, it's pretty hard, I would say, to go about the build having all the limitations the game has. The water canals were quite challenging. As you know, we don't have the option in Sims 4 to add fountains onto the next level, so like you can place it down on the ground, but the upper levels of the building cannot have fountains. So I was trying to go around that limitation, and I added these, well, what are these called? These little pieces, oh I forgot. I was trying to add these little pieces that you can actually see now, and I was putting the mosaic on top of them because that was one of the most fitting tiles that I could find, because I looked at these water elements and the cool thing was that they actually had some kind of a similar mosaic at the bottom, so I found this. It was great, that's awesome. But now I can't actually add water on top of them, unfortunately, so later on I will try to add a little something to cover that effect of flowing water. However, it's really cool that the mosaic itself is this nice blue, because that also kind of gives you the feeling that it's water. So we'll just pretend it's water. And here I'm using one of those really nice wallpapers from the Journey to Batu expansion pack, I think. I always mix up what's an expansion pack and what's like a kit and what's like, what are the other ones called? They all have different names, so I might mix them up when I'm talking, so do ignore that. Here I'm adding these little walls on the sides because I was thinking that it's not good that we have the blue part on the sides because we don't want to make it seem like the water is actually flowing out on the sides. So I am covering them up with these little half walls, and I'm coloring them with this, again, Journey to Batu paint. I think it's the only paint actually that I am going to use the entire build. And it makes sense because from what I've seen, every single room is pretty much the same. And then I'll just go on and do the same thing on the other end. And I was pretty happy with this because if you've been to Gerudo Town, you might know that this is what it looks like. You'll have the staircase, and on two sides you have these little waterfalls coming down from each side of it. These are really, really beautiful, very scenic. So I was trying my absolute best to recreate it. And if you actually have recreated this, or you'd want to take up a challenge and do it yourself, please do share with me on Pinterest, tag me in on Pinterest, and I would love to see what you create. this is the point I realized that the palace is a bit small, I think. So I was going in and making it a bit larger. And again, just a lot of micro adjustments, I would say. So it's getting a bit more there and, just becoming a bit more whole, the build, and more similar to what we want. Also, maybe the shape is not always correct. Like, I don't think the sides and everything is exactly the same, the shape, but I try to keep everything I could. I might have missed some of the houses or maybe just some smaller things, but I was trying to cover quite a lot of the stalls, of the little houses they have, the palace, of course. And over here I went inside just a bit into the palace area. This should be, I think, the throne room. Yeah, it is the throne room, and I will go in and just make it a more elevated on the sides, because I noticed that it does have these nice little stairs on the side. So I'm trying to do that. I'm adding the stair element, and I'm trying to just lift those flooring pieces up a bit so the Sims can actually walk up. And once they walk up, I'll just elevate the other side. Well, on the other side there will be an elevated side again, and they can go upstairs, because in the actual build you can go inside and also come outside. You'll see in a moment. You have these really nice doors. Everything is so well lit, I would say, because of the nice big doors and well aired. I really love it. And then you can go upstairs. It's really cool. You'll see in a bit. So I also am going to add some basic functions that you need when you play Sims. So if you want, you can actually move in here. Maybe a smaller family or a single Sim. Or maybe you could turn it into a rental place. I think that would be super, super cool, because I am going to upload this to my gallery so everyone can download it and play with it themselves, and just, you can build afterward and add your own ideas to it. That's also really cool. So I will be adding here some toilets also. So those are not actually found in Gerudo Town, but I tried to hide a couple of toilets at least, so your Sims can actually use the toilet. And also there are some kitchen areas, so I will be adding those as well later on. You'll actually see them build some of those. And here I am adding the staircase that I have mentioned before. This is what I was talking about, how you can go inside. We are in the throne room, and from the throne room you can go upstairs and go outside and sort of go upstairs again. And upstairs will be the princess's room. So it's a really cool build actually. And I know that I have actually not finished at this point, this part of the castle. I will get back to it, because I thought that I have actually finished it and that it's good to go, but then I accessed the game again and I realized that I got it wrong, so I will have to build a bit more to make it more, well, to make it look like the actual Gerudo Town Royal Palace after all. And here I am just again adjusting everything, because it feels like everything needs to be moved just a little bit, and when you look at it, nothing is centered. So that's what I am doing. I am adding all the colors in, everything that is needed, and going to every little element to ensure that the build is fully done. Now, if you don't know, Gerudo Town is a town where only women live. They are called the Vey. I might mispronounce that, so to let me know how to say it, because I'm not fully sure if I'm right. So the Vey are these warrior women. They're very strong, they're very tall also, and they do not allow men to visit Gerudo Town. Well, only on very special occasions can men visit. And you are one of the men, actually. You are one of the only men, I think, because any other man is thrown into prison, and they are actually quite against men visiting the town. However, that's why they also they're not used to men. So what they do, they have relationship lessons or classes or something like that, so they can actually talk to men. So they have a classroom where they do that. And this is the stall, the marketplace area. I am starting to put down the nice little stalls. I really like these ones that I'm using, and I was trying to place them inside the building because they are quite big. But then I realized later on that I will be actually building inside the buildings. So I had to just pull them out and not let them clip inside the building, because otherwise it would have not been looking good. So I will be doing that soon, and for now I am just adding those nice pillars, I think from the medieval kit. And also I will add, again from the medieval kit, those little, what are those called? Not archways, but it looks like an archway. So I add those. I will be using that throughout the entire build. I'll use a lot of medieval kit items, well, building items, because those go super well. They are very neutral colored. They have all these beige, these creamy pastel-y beige color, I would say. This very light brown. That is very fitting for the build, so I love that. It's really good. It's good for the sandy place. I've also added the palm trees, and the palm trees are really cute. I love these palm trees. I wish I could have sized them down just a little bit more, because when I size them down just a bit more, you know that issue when you play Sims and you want to size down an item or size up, and it's either sizing up too big or just too it just sizes up too very much, too much, and when you size down it's not enough, so you try to go around it, but it's either too big or either too small, if it makes sense. Well, that was already confusing for me. But yeah, it's not always perfect. It's not always how you'd want it to be. Let me just say that. So I wish I could have done the palm trees better, but I couldn't. Anyhow, they're pretty good as they are. They're not that big. So here I'm adding, this is like, I don't even know what to call this area. This is still the marketplace area, right? But there is this part of the marketplace area in the middle that has some kind of staircases and also plants next to the palm trees, and it also has like water elements on the sides. So that's what I was going for here. I wanted to recreate that, and actually later on I realized that the whole thing is elevated, so I went in and also corrected this so it's more realistic to what's in the game. I have done a couple of these corrections because sometimes you look at something and you can't see the detail enough. The more you look at something and you work with it, the more details you actually start seeing. It's just like drawing. If you ever tried to draw for a longer time and you try to work on your drawing skills, I'm no expert. I'm not an artist when it comes to drawing. I just like drawing, and I guess I could draw like basic manga or just basic human faces, maybe a bit better than, I don't know, when I was a kid, because I have been training myself, self-training of course. But anyhow, what I want to say is that there is this feeling when you are drawing that you look at a picture and you start to analyze it and you start seeing details that you could not see before, and you're looking at your own drawings and you're going through them, right? You made a portfolio, I guess. I think that's what you call them. You have a full portfolio of your own drawings, and what I did, actually, I was keeping track of them for like, I don't know, maybe 2 months or so, and I was writing down the date for every day. And when you look back and you look at the date, you start seeing that you can actually fill out those drawings that you actually were drawing before. I was looking at reference photos again and just looking at what I did, and I could see more details that before I couldn't. I don't know if this happens to anyone else, but that's how actually my brain was trying to unlock the next level, I guess. Like, it's so interesting. It's also strange. It's just, it feels like it's locked, you know, and then you unlock it to level up. But yeah, that's how it is. It was, at least for me. And here is one of those shops, I think. Yeah, here's one of the shops, and actually the door is not functional. I tested it out with one of my test sims, but no worries, it shouldn't be functional actually. So if you want to make it a functional door, you can move away the items, but this place is actually not functional and it shouldn't be functional. It's just a door that you cannot enter apparently. However, the other doors, I think, you can enter in the Gerudo Town, I think all of them. And now I'm going in with some carpets, and you'll see that I was trying to add a bit of more color and more fun to the carpets, but they weren't giving me what I wanted. They were more like, I don't know if this is really fitting, so I will have an aha moment in a bit. I will actually find a carpet that I think I will be using most of this build. Like, most of the time during this build, I will just keep using that carpet with its swatches just constantly, because it is so good. It gives me such good vibes. It's like, I don't even know, is it like that? But let me say, I think it is. I think it's giving me a bit of Aladdin's magical carpet. So you'll see in a moment when I go and change them up. Here I'm adding also these lanterns. Unfortunately, we don't have really similar lanterns in The Sims, like the ones they actually used. They have these round, cute little lamps. So I use different kind of lanterns that I think look really cute. And that's going to be it. That's going to be our substitution for that. And also you can see all the crates that I've been adding in. I was having a lot of fun with that, because I noticed that all the stalls had crates behind them, so I used a lot of the objects from the Journey to Batu kit. I said kit. Yeah, I think it's an expansion pack actually. But anyhow, I used that pack to create all these nice clutter elements. And this is when I realized that, oops, I have to pull these outside. So I can't do it like that. I can't make smaller stands. And I did test actually out the stands, and my Sims could actually walk, I think, under them, if I'm correct. But now I'm not fully sure about this one, but I think they can walk below them, the Sims, and also you could probably make them sit down below them. So if you're using, for example, one of those packs that allow you to create poses, you could actually create really nice scenic poses underneath the stall. If you want to make, you could use this actually for just any kind of marketplace stall game that you want to create, role-playing, I guess. You could use this for that. You don't strictly have to use it for Gerudo Town because it's really cool. It's oriental. It's good for a marketplace, and you can do that. Just use it for whatever you like. It's going to be up on the library anyhow. And here I remembered that I also have to add these smaller rugs in front, because this is where they actually place their produce. And you'll notice that I'm not adding any of the things that they're actually selling. So it's because I actually went into debug to get those items. So I will be doing that kind of at the end of this video-ish, I think. I think that would be correct to say, because I was trying not to go into debug because I was worried that my game might slow down if I start adding more and more items from debug, especially because what I was avoiding fully to do was to add the boulders. You know, I talked about the walls, the side walls, the main walls that surround Gerudo Town. Now, I wanted to add, like I did before, these boulders also that stick out from the walls, which look really good, and they are similar to what you can see in the game. But what I noticed is that those really slowed down my game, so my game is lagging more. So I was worried that would happen, and then I also thought that maybe that's why some of my things got broken. I added before, in the first time I was building this, I added the boulders on top of the royal palace because that's where the water source is. The water is coming out of those big boulders on top of the royal palace, and it is flowing onto those canals that go around Gerudo Town. So I tried to do that, and when I added the boulder, I actually could not move the boulder anymore, and I had to move it because it was not positioned right. And also I wanted to do other things later on that level where I added the boulders, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't add anything anymore to the next level, to the first and second floors, nor delete anything. And I also couldn't go back anymore to delete the items. Like, it was completely frozen, everything over there. I could still build on the first, like the first floor, but you know, where I am actually building right now as well. But yeah, that was it. So I didn't want to go into debug, so I left that for later. I just said, okay, I will just focus on whatever I have to do now, and I'll see the debug part later. Plus, looking through debug is super time consuming, and it's actually nicer to focus on debug, in my opinion, at the end, because I have built with debug before, I think once. I don't have much experience with it, so I don't actually have a feel for where to look for things. Maybe other people who build with debug very often know where to look for them already because they have already learned, but that's not me. So I feel like if I actually focus on doing everything else and leave it kind of until the end, well then maybe it will be actually also faster and more organized for me to build. So that's what I was going for. And this is the place where the seals are. If you remember from the game, you can ride the seals, and these are little cute chunky seals that are helping you get from one point to the other in the desert. They go super fast and you can ride them. You have something like, well, it's not a snowboard, but it looks like a snowboard, something that slips and slides on the sand, and you are pulled by these cute little seals around the desert. So it's very, very nice. It's really fun actually. You can go super high speed with them, and then you can also avoid being hit by hostile mobs. So it's really good. So I will fill that out with some actual pets later on from debug. I'll put there, I think, tiny goats and tiny sheep because we don't have seals. I would have put in plushies if that was an option, but we don't have seal or any kind of similar plushies, I guess. We have one that reminds me a bit of the seal plushie from the game. That's a little birdie, so I will use that for the actual plushies later on, but I actually used the little mini pets. And I know those are gas tanks, but let's pretend that the ones I just placed down are not gas tanks. They are very nice little boxes, that's what I'm gonna say. The ones from Journey to Batu, I used them also quite a lot because I needed more types of boxes and crates. And this is the training grounds, I think. I think this is where the Gerudo people train. And I already placed in the knights, and I just put them in front, so we have them there. And this is really nice. I'm so happy that The Sims has knights because we will need to use them also a bit later on in the palace. And for now, just so you know what's coming up next, I am going to give this place a bit more of a shape. I think this is where we'll have another home, which I have not done yet. At this point, I'm not going to focus on the home, but I will be also creating the bar. So the bar, which is called, I don't actually remember. Let me see. Do I recall? It's Noble Canteen. Yeah, it's Noble Canteen. This is where the Gerudo townies go and chill out and have a nice little drink and have a nice time together. And they actually go there during the day, or I've seen them. I don't know if they actually go there during the night. I should have checked that out. But anyhow, they do go there during the day. If you stay there, I was standing there, by the way, while I was building this, because it's one of my favorite places. It's so pretty. It's a small build, but it's super wholesome, super pretty. I love it. And I was standing there, and at a moment I just noticed that I was being pushed around, and I was worried that, oh, is auto walk on again? That's not good, because I am going to leave this place again, because before I actually had auto walk on, and at the moment I just noticed that I was being actually beaten up in the desert because Link was auto walking out from Gerudo Town. So I was a bit worried. Oh, did I forget to turn off auto walk? Let me just check that. But no, one of the townies was pushing me because I was standing in the way. They were trying to get in the bar and I was in the way clearly. So that happened. And excuse me. So here I am again, adjusting a bit the walls, getting a nice feel of how much of this place do I want to create to make into a bar. And you may notice that sometimes random crates and carpets and those vases just appear, they pop up. I didn't show you anymore how I added those because, let's be honest, that's already the basics I have already showed you, and I didn't want to make it too monotonous by showing you constantly how I place crates and carpets. But just so you know, I did try to add them exactly where they are in the game. Or where if it was like a place which was super empty, I might have added them there as well. But this one here, the ones that you can see, these are actually there in the game as well. Also, I'm using one of the kits here, and it's not the Riviera Retreat. I keep mixing up the names. It's one of those kits that they released for the first time, I think, and it was for free. I have to actually look this one up because I can't remember right now what the name of this was, but it has these really, really nice items, these stone items, those stone sofas and stone just side tables, and everything is using some kind of a stone. So that's what I've been adding in here. Also lots of pillows. The place does have a ton of pillows, and I try to make them as colorful as possible as it is. Again, carpets. I use those pillows, the ones you can see in the middle and on the side in the corner. I use them, those are actually seating objects, but I use them as well, what are those called? Little tables, little coffee tables. That's what I was trying to do there, to make them look like coffee tables. Also barrels. This place is pretty much accurate. I would say maybe 90% to what the actual build is, because I love this place so much, as I've said before, that I went in here and I spent so much time on this, just enjoying building it and looking at every little detail. However, then I realized also when I was building this that if I'm going to do this to every single little building, yeah, it might take a very, very long time, and I actually do want to be able to show this sooner than, well, maybe never, because sometimes you want to create something and use up all your energy, and I don't want to actually become too tired of the build. So I want to have fun with it and also be able to show you the build, and then whenever, if I would feel like doing more, then I can do that as well and just also be posted to my gallery. But that's how I think about it. Sometimes you can go into something with too many details, and then maybe you'll never even finish it up because it's going to be too much for you and you tire yourself out, and I didn't want that to happen, so I did tone it down later on in the upcoming buildings. So I did go in with my own creativity more for the other builds, trying to get the vibe right. But I'm also just very happy that at least we have the bar area, which is very close to what the real build is. Also, the Royal Palace is going to be pretty much the same. However, I did add some other objects there because the place, just the area, was too big and it felt very empty if I would have left it just that empty. Basically, it would have felt empty if it was empty. But that's it. Also here I noticed they have a little bar place, which I thought is so cozy. It was this little area, so I added the bar part, and I added Journey to the Batu chairs, these white ones. And here, I love this. This is such a good idea, and I think I will use this in other builds as well. So you guys can also do this. Just add shelves on top of a window and then add these really cool little vases and plants on top. So it creates this really nice design element. And here I'm adding these, well, I'm not sure what these are called, these orange things, like umbrellas, parasols, I don't know. I've added those, so it's actually more similar to what it looks like in the game, because they do have these to protect them from the sun. They are in the desert, obviously they will need that. It's going to be really hot. Anyhow, I think it's really hot there, so I don't know how they're sitting there all day long. And here I already went in and I was testing out a couple of things, and soon enough I'll find the right decision, the right item that I want to use. I was looking through a whole bunch of bar elements here, and I couldn't find the right one, but this is the one I think I went with actually. And also I am adding these little these are those little stone slab looking things that come with the same kit as the sofas are coming from. So I added those, and I'm adding these nectar wine holders and some of those lights because they look so pretty. They are amazing, so I wanted to add those. Again, that's my own creative addition to this build, so you will see these things sometimes. And here I'm just trying to figure out how to make this work, because in the actual bar area there was this kind of bar part where only the bartender could access, and you'd have to, well, it was completely cut off, but I didn't actually do that. I left some space for your sim to enter, and I will have to actually check. I think I also moved these blocks a bit later on, more in front, because I wasn't sure if the sim could access it. Also, I'll go in with lots of elements here, you'll see in a moment. The usual, just the carpets and some other things that I consider it's going to fill out the build nicely. And in a moment, I'm also going to add some decoration on the wall, because from what I remember, I saw here a recipe. So I am using the menu actually for that. I'll be using that in a bit, and I was confused what that black thing was. Let's ignore that. That did not happen. Probably my game was glitching at this point, but I'll find the right image in a moment. This is one of the menu item images, and I'm changing the swatch to the vegetable one. I think they have a curry recipe here, if I'm right. I'm not sure about that, but they have some kind of a recipe there. So I added that, and I was really happy because it does look like a menu, but at the same time, you could say it's a recipe. So that was one of those moments that made me feel really good. You know, the little small things that make you happy. Sometimes it takes just one thing to make you feel really good, really happy about what you're doing. And that recipe on the wall was one of those things. And here I'm trying to figure out how am I going to do those walls. I don't even know what those are called. Those are little holes in the wall. They have these holes many times, and they have usually light inside, but this place specifically has bottles. So I got this item out, and I'm trying to place them on the wall, and I'll try to add some I think I'll add actually just some plants. I'm not sure, I think some of them had plants on this side, that's why. And on the other side, I will add empty ones because empty shelving units, not these ones actually. They will be different empty shelving units. I will add the empty shelving units just in a moment because I was looking, well, I was going to add later just wine bottles, the nectar ones from debug. So when I'll access the debug later, I will add the bottles, and I'll actually show you the entire build at the end of this video so you can see everything. And you can find the build on my gallery on Sims. If you log in and you open up the gallery, you'll find it there and you can download it and you can play with it yourself. So, and I'll leave my ID in the description below so you can find me on the gallery. So please feel free to download it, and I hope you have as much fun with it, discovering it, as I did while I was building it, because I was really happy. It brought me so much joy to create the Gerudo Town. And actually I might create other places from Zelda as well in the future, because this was one of the nicest times I've had in a long time. So I just hope you'll enjoy at least looking at the build, if not playing with it. Here I'm building this little area from the seal's living area, living space. And I'm trying to remember what it is called. It is the seal place where you can rent the seals. Yeah, it's the sand seal rental place. This is where you can rent the seals, and that's why I added the little menu thing on the top of that table, because I wanted to make it look like it's a rental place, and those are like maybe the hours they are open at or prices. And here you'll see me go around and move walls. That's basically what I'm doing, because I was a bit confused on how this is going to look, and I actually think I have not calculated properly what I was trying to build. When you actually get to build, you'll have to ensure that you have enough space for everything. So I will have to sometimes drag around walls or just move around things to make it look better. And here I'm going in with one of the houses. This one had one of these open archways. You can enter and you can look around. And this is where the Gerudo people live. So if you do play with this build, you could actually move people in here, or you can leave it as one of those common areas. Is that what it's called? Where you can visit and anyone else can visit. You just open them up for people to go here all the time, like a little hangout spot. That's also nice. And I'll be going in with very similar elements here. I was not looking at what the build looks like 100%. I did check it out. I think I went inside and I just checked it out to have some kind of a more realistic look. But at this point, I wasn't trying to be super realistic. This is just a basic home inspired by how the Gerudo people live, with all the elements that I think are pretty much matching. All the poofs, the pillows, the sofas, exactly the sofas they use. I think it's one of the only sofas I have used in this build. I have one more type used somewhere else, but this is the one that rules over Gerudo Town, basically. Also adding here a kitchen, and because it's a kitchen, I'm adding a fridge. I know they didn't have a fridge, but I want this place to be functional for you guys, so if you want to play with it, I have added a fridge. and also a fire alarm, because we don't want a fire to break out. Well, it will probably happen, let's be real, it always happens. But when it happens, it's good to have a fire alarm. Apparently there are ways to turn that off, but I never really did that. So maybe in the future I will, because honestly, the game is a serious fire hazard. Every time someone with low cooking skill moves in and they start cooking, I just want to delete the oven and and just give them microwave food forever, because it's always gonna happen. It's rare for the fire not to break out. And I don't know why it's like that. Like, I wish it would be fixed. I wish there was like an option for you to turn off the fire and just not have the fire on. That would be so great. Maybe that would be a really good feedback to give to the Sims team. You know, that it would be nice to turn off the fire, and maybe other things it would be really cool. Like, I'm not a big fan of the random weather day. I was very confused. I thought my game was broken. So if you play Sims 4, you probably know that your weather can randomly generate sometimes. So you might be playing the game during summer, right? And then you'll suddenly realize that it was a really hot summer day and your Sims is outside, I don't know, maybe sunbathing, and then it starts to snow. Yeah, that's the random weather day they have. It's just a weather type that's randomized, and you'll have during that day constantly super random weather. So you'll have maybe 2-3 hours in Sims snowing during summer, and maybe you are actually trying to roleplay a nice little cozy picnic, and that happens, which could be maybe interesting, like maybe, but sometimes it can be a bit bothersome. So I would prefer having an option for that to turn off, maybe other things as well. It would be nice to have the option to just turn on and off things that you want in the game and things that you don't. So yeah, these two things I would really like to turn off. But let me know in the comments what you would like to turn off in The Sims 4, if there are any kind of, well, features of the game that are bugging you, and if you'd want to turn them off sometimes, what are those? Let me know, because I'm curious if there are anything else, if I missed something. This is, I think, the moment I'm using for the first time this sort of lamp, the hanging one, and I instantly fell in love with it, and I will use it inside every room, I think, from now on. It is so pretty, it's so fitting. I don't know if they have this lamp actually, any kind of a similar lamp, but I thought this is perfect. It fits the vibe so well, so we're going in with it. And here again, it's again another room, another house. You could move in someone here. They would probably have to use one of the toilets that's located somewhere else, because I didn't go in with the toilets at this point in the home. I was already thinking about the toilet, but I didn't want to somehow go against the build that much, if that makes any sense. So I didn't go in. I tried to be as honest to the real build the game as possible. Like, even when I added the fridge, I tried to add an old looking fridge, like that brown one that looks wooden, because I thought that's gonna look a bit better. I also added a sink, not sure if they had one, but at this point I thought that they will need to wash their dishes. And later on I actually went in to the builds, and I have added a little bit of this and that, just to make sure that it looks a bit more wholesome, it looks a bit more finished, you know, so you can have a bit more fun with it. And I also added the trash can, like here I forgot, I think. I might have not added here one, I'm not sure. Anyhow, I'm adding here a lot of these counter elements, and just shelves, because this place, I think, is like the main cooking space. This is where they might be cooking for the queen and for, well, maybe also the royal people. Are there any other royal people than Riju, the queen? I'm not sure. But this was a pretty big cooking space, actually. That's what I remember. So I was adding lots of surface for them to chop on to prepare their food. And I was thinking also that this is going to be perfect for actual Sims that live here and want to use this area for cooking, for, just creating their own meals. And also they have a bed in there, so they can literally live there as well. The bed was there as well. At least that's what I remember. And what I know is that I added more sofas, I think, than there are, because I love those sofas. Also, more counters, just to fill out the space. And there was a middle one too, an island here, but there was not enough space to add an island, so I was adding just on the right side more of the counter area, and also maybe just some plants. And that was it for that little room. Here I am going in with the mosaic, and I'm trying to think about the pattern, and I think at this point my brain was completely loading and I just abandoned figuring out the water. So I went in with these archways, and I'm creating, this is like a hangout space, I think, for the queen. So I am looking for something that's similar to the sofa here, because in the game there was a different sofa and I did want to give the queen a different one so it looks more special. And that's what I went for the one with the blue design. And also there is an entrance here, I think. Oh, I'm not at the entrance yet, sorry. So I was actually going in with these, what are these called? Oh, I wanted to say carpets, but they're not carpets. They're, wow, alright, I put those things on the wall. The blinds, I think you can call them blinds. And then I tried to color them white and red. Curtains, right. So the curtains, I tried to color them like they are in the game, but they weren't really working out. Not the colors, but just the size of them. So later on I did change them to bigger ones because they look much better. And also here, I thought at first that this is a playroom, but I actually checked in the game and it's more like another room of a Gerudo townsperson that lives here. And you can see I actually kept this part because I wanted to show you that I thought that this was a children's playroom, so I added a bunch of plushies, but then I checked again and it wasn't the playroom. So I will go in and delete those plushies and just leave one, because there is one or two. I think I left more than it's needed, but whatever, it's fine. We love the plushies. So this is just a room. I am filling it out as well, and I wanted to create stairs outside, but I couldn't actually go with that because the water conduct was actually blocking the way upstairs, so it's not going to be as similar to the real build as I would have wanted to. Normally you should be able to access the palace from both left and right sides, but at least from left side. I remember from left side for sure. Right side, I don't remember actually, but you should be able from the left side that I'm working on here to access the palace, but I couldn't create the stairs upwards because the water element was blocking the way. So I was a bit bummed out about that because it would have been so cool, and I didn't want to move the water element either anymore, so it is what it is. And as you see, I tried to go in with as many cozy elements as I can. I tried to add just a little bit of shelving, drawers. I also added plates. I saw plates I'm not sure if I saw them here in another room, but I added plates because I saw some plates somewhere. Here I was going in with more of these roofing elements, and I will also create a nice wall around the staircase. I have rechecked the reference pictures, and I did go also there with link to check out the castle, and I noticed that, wait a minute, I need to redo this part here because the design was lacking. So I had to add a bit more of these elements, and also when I found these cool roofing pieces, I was super happy about them because they are super fitting. So I was very satisfied with what I did here with the limited resources. And I'm also going in with these super cute clover windows and lanterns also below them because there were some design elements in front of the palace. I wanted to say castle, but I guess it's the same thing. So there are these nice clover looking windows that also have lanterns in front below them that also illuminate the palace during the night, so you can actually see the palace in its full glory. So I do think that that was a very nice addition. Then I'm adding these archways on the sides. These archways are not going to be functional. We do have the water conduct on the sides, so I will actually cut off the access to these later on. And I did not manage to put them exactly on the middle. I know it would have looked better, but we are not able to do that because of the staircases that are on the other sides, on the two sides. Here I'm opening up the back, and this is exactly how it is in the royal palace, in the throne room. You can actually see the desert behind, and that's why I actually chose this lot, because you can see the really nice scenery behind. Here I'm adding just more of the fictional water element. We do have a little fountain in here, but I could not create that, so I'm adding what I can. I'm just emulating the water here, and I'm trying to do some stairs that take you up to the throne. And once I have that right and in the middle, I'll go on with more of the elements that are needed. And I did not actually add one element in the back. If you play the game, you might know what that is, but I didn't actually have space anymore. So yeah, I wish I would have had enough space for that as well. I don't want to say what it is because I don't want to like give away any spoilers. So I'll just say that there's something behind that's missing. Here I'm adding these curtains that I would go around the entire throne area. I'll go around that with them, and I'll add them because the throne room did have a lot of curtains, but mainly on top, above the throne actually, not on the sides. It did have some decorational elements on the sides, so I used the curtains instead of that. And those tiny fences, by the way, that I just placed around the water element is one of my favorite little fences from the game. I use it for all sorts of things, and here I just added it because I was thinking that I need to elevate the sides a bit, because if it was water, we wouldn't want the water to flood the place, so it looks a bit more realistic. Also, I'm going in with some light, and also with our wonderful lights that we also used in front of the training grounds. The room does have 2 lights, so I was happy that we could add them as well. These red carpets were leading up to the throne, and I've added them over there, and I'll also add them, I think, on the sides, because I was thinking that it would make sense, and it would also make the build just a bit more whole. Here I'm going in with, what are these called? Well, these are also pillars, and I will actually bring those back. But I was trying them out at first, and that's when I found this wonderful element that has the curtains on top, and I was super happy because this is what I was lacking. Now I had it, and I know that the stone is peeking out a bit, but it's good enough. Then I added these pillars, these larger pillars also. I'm just covering up the old ones. You can barely see the old ones, but I still kept them because these ones don't reach up until the top, so I just kept the other ones to kind of connect the top. It's not about making it 100% perfect. I think it's fine the way it is. However, if you have a better idea to do it, please feel free to recreate it and let me know about it. This is the point where I am cutting off the water access. I'm using again those roofing pieces, which are a godsend, literally. They are amazing. I love them so much. And I also have been thinking at this point how I could make the room better, because the room feels like it's a bit empty. So I was thinking that if our princess is younger, maybe she's a teenager, she might need a place where she could also relax and have more light-hearted conversations. So I was thinking that maybe it would be a good idea to create sort of a hangout chill spot where you put just a lot of pillows, and you can also make your sim sit down. I have actually tested it out, and the sim does walk up and sit down at the middle of this, which is great. Maybe if you make it a bit larger, they can also meditate there. The pillow won't work like this. The meditation pillows don't actually work because I think they need 2 slots, and we have there just 1. So you can't actually use that. But if you make it larger, maybe you could use it like that. I'm not sure how good the design will be then, but maybe you can try out that and see if it works. And I also added this really cozy rug, and then I have to change the color of these other carpets because just the colors we had were not relaxing. And I added those fences on the sides because I thought it's gonna make it look like it's a couch, or I don't even know, it just makes it look better somehow. It brings everything together. And at this point I was thinking about a tea set, and I think I'm using one of the newer tea sets that we got with one of the kids. This is one that makes really cute looking tea. I tested it, and it makes this tea that has these glasses that look like Arabic tea sets. I'm not exactly sure from what exact culture, but I have seen similar ones. I also got some as souvenirs from friends that have visited Arabic countries, and they look very similar to that. So I was thinking that would be very fitting, so I added that here. And I'm already working on the princess's room. At this point, I wanted to have the princess's room a bit more playful, but also more, I would say, a bit more creative as well, because I couldn't go around the limitations that well at every moment of the build, but at this point I felt like this is something that we can work with. So it did have these curtains around the bed, so I added pillars, and I am adding the curtains around that to work around that. And also I am adding these plushies because the princess did have some plushies around, which again feel like a hint that she's younger. It feels like a hint that she is younger. And I'm adding some carpets, and just you'll see I'll try to add a bunch of elements that were actually part of the build. The bookcase, for example, I'll even elevate it just the way it was in the build. I might, I will actually add also the curtains. It also had the curtains in front. So here it's not that much my own creativity, but it's actually me trying to create it as much as possible as it was. I'm also adding some pillars here. I think the ones here, the ones around the bed, are from Discover University, and I might have added just one too many carpets over there. And I'm just picking up things from the lower floor at this point. That's how I actually look for the objects, because it's faster. And then I went in with more elements that were missing in front of the bed. We have these plants, but I will actually change these. And also, by the way, I did test these areas to see if I can bring my Sims in, and I could walk around with my Sims, so that was good. They could sit down, they could interact with the objects, so that's also great. I wasn't sure if they can use the bed, so by the way, if you put similar curtains, they should be able to use the bed, because I tested it and they could. And yeah, it's just me basically cluttering everything up right now and adding more elements one after the other one. The fountain element on the left side of the bed, there is an actual water source in the room, a fountain, so I created my own. I wanted to bring that in. And also I added these ancient looking texts on the walls because she did have a couple of those. And then I was thinking that this build is a bit empty, so I had to be a bit creative at this point. I did add one of those magical books shelves or whatever that is. I've added on the other side. And over there, I actually cut it off and I made a bathroom. Yeah, I wanted to add a bathroom because I want this to be playable for you guys. So you have a bathroom there. If you want to move someone in and play with this lot, you can do that. You can also just delete the bathroom and just redo anything you want. Just feel free to be creative with the build. And here I'm adding another spot for the princess to relax to at, and this is close to the bookcase, so I was thinking that she could be reading there or studying or having friends over. And also I am adding some incense on the coffee table so that she can also use that and just have a quiet moment there. This is the jewelry shop, and I am adding the necklaces in and also some earrings, so we have got those as well. And this is going to just be a very simple shop, very homey. It's a place where they actually live at as well. So the way I imagine this is that they are selling the jewelry here, but this is a small town and they also probably live there. So I actually will also place some beds on the other side, so they also actually live in this little shop. I thought that would be actually quite realistic in a way. Here I will add a lot of mirrors. Mirrors are so pretty, and I thought if you're going to have a jewelry shop, you might want to have a lot of mirrors so the people coming in can try out the jewelry and see for themselves if they like them. And of course, a bunch of carpets, just way too many carpets everywhere, because that's what Gerudo Town is about, is carpets. If I would have to choose 3 things that describe Gerudo Town, like item-wise, I think that would be, one of them would be carpets, definitely, and the other thing would be perhaps crates and boxes. And the third thing, maybe pillows. I think pillows would be one of the other things that I had to place a bunch of times. And I'm not talking about the lighting elements, because let's be real, every build is going to have a bunch of those. So this is going to be where they also live, so I was trying to make it more cozy and more just inviting for them. So I was adding a couple of bookshelves, just plants, more cute little lanterns, and I found that wall piece that I put there on top of the bed is from the vampire kit, and it's one of my favorites. So I was happy that I remembered that and I could use it here because I think it's quite fitting. Also, these vases, they had to go in, and at this point I was thinking that if it's a jewelry shop, it might have some kind of magazines, so I was thinking that maybe they would have that. So I'm adding a couple of those right there, and they are actually very cute. I love these little magazines. I thought this idea was a very good one, though I'm not sure if they had it there, but we're also basing this build on our creativity. Then I'll just go in with a couple more elements, and yeah, this is basically the jewelry shop from Gerudo Town. And here we have, I think this is the bed and breakfast place. it's the bed and spa place. I think it's one of those little hotels that they have in each new area that you explore in the game. But it's also a spa because you can get a massage here. So when I remember that, I thought that this place has to have massage tables, so I will go in with that. So speaking of massage tables, you can use this build also for travel destinations, I think, because it would be really, really fitting for that. You might need to change the build type because I think it's just a regular building right now and not a travel destination, and you might need to, I'm not sure how you set that one up, but you might need to select the right rooms for each rental unit for the travel destination. And I think it could be a very nice travel destination, like you can rent the place or part of it for, I don't know, a couple of days and play with it with your sim, use it for like a honeymoon destination. That could be also great. So yeah, I have a bunch of ideas and I cannot wait to play with it myself. I have played with the build a bit and I did enjoy it a lot. It was very relaxing. Here I am adding sort of a front desk area, and I added these beds, but I won't actually use these because this is going to be the massage part of the building. So this is going to be where they have massage therapy. And in the walls I'm adding these shelving units because we do need these holes in the walls where they have different items. So I added a bunch of calming lotus candles and also lanterns. And later on, actually at the end, I did go into debug and I went into each room and I've added a couple of debug items as well. So if you do download the build, you can see all the debug items as well. You might see that the game is modded, but I have only used the red shelf mod, which is there to just help you place the items. And from what I know, that should not disrupt anything if you download it, because you'll just have the red shelf missing, or you'll have a placeholder instead of it, but the actual items placed should still be placed in the right direction. And I really hope it's like that. So if you have the red shelf mod also, I think there will be no issues with it. Here I'm also adding one sofa just to make the build look a bit more whole, more cluttered with items, and just more pillows. And as you see, I have made one area strictly for the massage and the other one is for rest and peace. And also I've added a bunch of incense in this room as well, because I wanted to have those there so you can just turn them on and have different roulettes for your Sims. And here we have a super quick build. This build is the one with clothing, so I don't want to spoil a lot about this part, but yeah, it is smaller than the actual place because I didn't have any more space for this, so you might notice that. And also I have not super decorated this. I only added the mere basics and maybe a bit more later on when I went in and just added a couple of more items in here. And the last place I'm going to show you is the relationship classroom. This is where they have their relationship classes, and I was very happy to find this place because I did not know that there is a classroom beneath the palace, so I was very happy to actually find it. And I'm just making a regular classroom here. I'll just add a bunch of book clutter, copybooks, things that you'd find in the classroom, like bookcases and just some art that could show you that this is an actual classroom. And that will be it. This is the last room that I did, and with this the build is going to be whole. So I really thank you for sticking around for this long. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe and hit that like button, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.